All right, in this video, we're going to talk about magic numbers, which is just a terminology we use to represent two numbers that multiply to something and add to something specific. So you're going to be given a specific product and a specific sum. So it's something to multiply to and something to add to. And what you're going to do is you're going to find the pairs of numbers that multiply to the given product, and then which of those actually add to the given sum. There is only one correct answer to these. Now, some of these you might just pop into your head and know the exact answer without doing too much thinking because you're very familiar with the factor pairs. Others of these might be more of a struggle. So what we encourage you to do is learn a process, a very systematic way of writing down all of the options so that when you get to a problem that's a little bit trickier, you have a strategy that you can use to help you find the magic numbers. So we're going to demo that with a few simpler ones that you can apply to more difficult problems. So the first problem we have is we want to come up with two numbers that multiply to 20 but also add to 9. We're going to start by thinking about the multiplication. I always start by writing 1 times the number itself. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to work up. So I'm going to say 2 times what, then 3 times what, and then 4 times what. So if I continued with 2, 2 times 10 gives me 20. If I thought about 3, I'm not even going to write 3 down, honestly, because 3 doesn't go into 20. There's not a nice number that I can multiply 3 by to get 20. So I'm going to skip it. And I'm going to think 4. 4 times 5 gives me 20. Then the next number I would think about is 5. But I'm going to stop there because you'll notice that we start repeating the pairs that we had above. So once I start repeating, I'm going to stop writing down my numbers. Those are all the factor pairs that multiply to 20. Now what I'm going to look at is what do I get when I add those pairs of numbers together. Oops, 2 plus 10, and then 4 plus 5. My magic numbers are only the ones that also add to 9, and that looks like it is our bottom pair of numbers, 4 and 5. So my magic numbers in this problem are 4 and 5 because they multiply to 20 and add to 9. Okay, let's look at a little bit trickier one. We need two numbers that multiply to 18 and add to negative 11. I'm going to start systematically writing down my factor pairs. So 1 times 18, then 2 times 9, then 3 times 6, then 4 times, well, 4 doesn't go into 18, so I'm not going to write that one. 5's not going to go into 18, and then 6 works, but I already wrote 6 down in my list, so I'm going to stop there. Now I'm going to check to see which one of these add to 11. 1 plus 18, 2 plus 9, 3 plus 6. Those sums are 19, 11, and 9. Well, none of those are exactly the number that I want. So we have a little bit of an issue here. How can we end up adding to give us a negative number, but we're multiplying to give us a positive number? Well, this is where we're going to have to start recalling some of our positive and negative rules. When I multiply two positives together, I get a positive, but I could also multiply two negative numbers together. That is going to be the situation I'm going to need to have here, where I'm going to make all of my pairs negative. They will still multiply to give me a positive 18, but then when I add them together, they will add to negative solutions or negative sums. So now we can see that negative 2 and negative 9 multiply to a positive 18 and add to a negative 11. So those are our magic numbers. Now you might be thinking, how are you supposed to remember all those rules? Well, we have this little chart here, and although you can use the chart when you're working on your homework and your practice, it is going to be good for you to think about how this works so that you have this in your brain and you don't have to reference it all the time. Let's start with addition. That's generally the hardest one to think about. I'm just going to toss some examples over here on the side. If I were to add two positive numbers, 5 plus 2, I would get a positive answer. Okay, now let's think about what happens if I add two negative numbers together. So let's just change this up. This is the example we just did a little while ago. If I have a negative 5 plus a negative 2, that gives me a negative 7. So when you are adding signs that match, the answer always has the same sign. Answer has same sign. Now, what's a little bit trickier is when I am adding something that is positive and negative. Then it matters which one is bigger. So in this next line, we have a bigger positive than we do negative. This is where things start to get tricky. So I like this analogy of thinking about this as kind of a battle, right? We have 5 positive soldiers and they are battling 2 negative soldiers. When they go face to face, the positive and the negative cancel each other out. So those go away, and then these ones go away. So what I'm left with is a positive result. So we end up, the answer is +3. But just in general, when you have a bigger positive than negative, more positives than negative, your answer will end up being positive. Now we could reverse that and we can say, what if I had a -5 and a +2? Well, now I have 5 negative soldiers and 2 positive soldiers. The same idea is going to happen, right? We're going to have 2 that cancel out, and our negative soldiers are going to win over because I have 3 more of them. So the answer ends up being negative. So when you have opposite signs adding together, the answer always takes the bigger of the numbers, or the sign. The answer takes the sign of the bigger number. All right, so multiplication, when we get into that, is a little bit more straightforward. I feel like people have this memorized a little bit easier. A positive times a positive and a negative times a negative will always be a positive. So if the signs match, the answer is positive, no matter what. Now, if the signs do not match, it doesn't matter which one is bigger or which one is smaller. If I'm multiplying opposite signs, I always get a negative solution. So if signs don't match, the answer is negative. Okay, let's take these rules to see if this helps us with a little bit trickier of problems. Okay, so in this first example, I have multiplied a -36 and add to 5. So I'm going to list all my factor pairs of 36. I am not going to worry about the negative quite yet. I'm just going to focus on 36. So 1 times 36, 2 times, now if you're not sure, you can always do some division to figure it out backwards. So if I did 36 divided by 2, that gives me 18. That means 2 times 18 is 36. Same thing goes for 3. If you're not sure, you can take 36 divided by 3 and we get 12. That means 3 times 12 gives me 36. 4, again, I could do 36 divided by 4, and that gives me 9. That means 4 times 9 is 36. 5's not going to work because I know it doesn't end in a 0 or a 5. And then this one I happen to know in my head, which is 6 times 6. All right, so now none of these obviously multiply to a -36. If I want to multiply to a negative answer, I need one of my numbers to be positive and I need one of my numbers to be negative. And this is where we have to think a little bit, and to think saves us a little bit of time. If I know I want my sum to be a positive answer, I either need both of my signs to be positive, which can't happen in this case, or I need the bigger number to be positive. So I'm going to make all of my smaller numbers negative because now I know when I add these together, it will end up with a positive result. At quick glance, and to save us a little bit of time, I can see that -4 plus 9 will give us 5. So those are our magic numbers. Okay, let's look at the last one, which is multiplying to a -42. Again, I'm going to think of all of my factor pairs. 1 times 42, 2 times 21. One that a lot of people aren't sure about is 3. which actually gives us 14. So 3 times 14 gives me 42. 4 does not work, 5 does not work, but 6 does work. And if you're not sure if it works or not, you can always type it into your calculator using division. Now again, I need to multiply to a negative 42. So one is going to be positive and one is going to be negative. If I want to end up with a negative sum, though, if you look over here, I need to get a negative 11. Either both of my signs have to be negative or the bigger number needs to be negative. So I'm going to make my bigger number negative because I know I need one of each sign. Sorry, that's kind of small. Now I can figure out which one of these pairs would give me a negative 11, and that would be 3 and a negative 14. So my magic numbers, looks like it got cut off on the page here, are 3 and negative 14. Hopefully that helps. We'll see you later.